Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Alec Burleson, needs a major change to be successful. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Wow, calling Alec out.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Well, Hambone, we're back. It's just you and I.
Yep, I know.
It's quieter now.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at you.
Yeah.
No,
it's fine.
It's fine.
101 doesn't hit like 100.
101.
Yeah. Who
I
cares?
was when I was like, as I was putting this episode together, putting like the recording and stuff, I like tab 101 is the name of the episode.
Yeah.
It's making me think like, what would tab 101 be if it was like a class you were signing up for?
What could we teach someone?
Very little, I guess. How to put out a podcast every single week.
Yes.
That's the one thing that we've done successfully on this show is we've done it every single week.
End of list.
Yeah. How to have similar voices. How to be cousins, I guess. Those are things that we could. Yeah.
I've been doing that for like,
dude, I've been a cousin
time.
for a long time.
As long as I can remember.
I've been your cousin for literally your entire life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's messed up. Well,
yeah, kind of sucks.
Well,
yikes!
I'm freaking out, man.
Okay. This is stupid. How are you? How are things going?
Fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't know. It's snowing in Colorado. Yeah, I don't know. I got nothing to report over here. We're in I don't know. We're in the middle of it, Nate. It's the off season and
I know.
And we don't have good guests to distract me from just how shitty this is.
Dude, I've been really feeling it. I've been like, so I've said this on the show before, but I'm a lot into fantasy baseball and dynasty fantasy baseball, and I feel like I've been so jonesing for like baseball. I'm just like looking at my rosters on my leagues, just like, these are baseball guys that I like. It's fun to look at baseball. It'll be much better when there's box scores and any of this actually means anything. But otherwise, I'm just like literally just looking at baseball names and like projections and stuff.
This month, Nate, this episode dropping on the 1st of Feb, we have baseball in February.
Yes, it's in our sights. Assuming I survive our upcoming ski trip, I will be in 2 weeks. I will be traveling to the mountains with Ben to go skiing for the second time in my life. And assuming I make it through that, there will be baseball on the other side of it.
Yeah. You just got to rip that band, risk your life for a few days, and you'll be on the other side. And it's all going to be great. Everything's going to be fine. You're gonna pick up right where you left off. You're gonna shoop down the mountain,
spiraling in a full starfish down the side of the mountain.
Maybe a little before that. You left right before that fall where you left off there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm also really looking forward to there being actual baseball. This off season has been an interesting one. I think that
is for sure.
What did C70 rate it? Like a 741,000 out of a million? Something. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be nice to actually have actual games and actual stuff to talk about here pretty soon. But if I understand it correctly, did you go to a hockey game recently? Are you expanding your horizons here, old Hambone?
No, I'm not. But I did attend a NHL game, which I will admit was very exciting. I don't go to those very often. I maybe go once a year. But so Avalanche are really good, as you probably know. Yeah. Stan Kroenke always picking up championships. But anyways, the Avs are really good. They were playing the Kings. They whooped their asses, which was a lot of fun, especially for my Luddite ass. I don't know what's going on. Like hockey, I enjoy watching hockey live, but the movements and the nuances of like line changes and setting up plays and passing structures or however it's described, it all is like beyond me. And to be totally honest, I don't care enough to learn. But it's exciting when you're there in person and you know you're drinking beers and carrying on and whatnot. But what was really exciting, so we went there to celebrate Pride Night, Avalanche Pride Night, and we bought some like special ticket that included a T-shirt, obviously a seat, and then after the game was
obviously a seat. Thank you for clarifying. I don't know if that's as obvious as you might think it is.
You know, hey, with our listener group, who knows? You know, who knows what they're thinking?
I don't know hockey. Maybe you float.
Yeah,
it's cold. I can't be seated.
Oh, that makes sense. So the tickets included a T-shirt, a seat, and then once
they let you through the door,
yes,
air to breathe, stairs, yeah, cool, good ticket.
You're the worst. It also included, once the game was over, that we could go down onto the ice and shoot on the rink.
Wow.
And they set it up with hockey pucks and sticks and obviously the nets. So a bunch of people lined up and we went down there, and I
swung super hard, and because you're on ice, you did like a big old spin and fell flat on your face.
You are very close to being accurate. The only thing that you're not accurate about is that they didn't Zamboni the ice before we got onto it. So it had like a period of hockey players, playing on it. And it was super grippy. Like you wouldn't slip on it. It was like walking on like slightly wet concrete. It was much, much grippier than I expected. But before I went down on the ice, I looked at my buddy Steven and said, I'm going to swing as hard as I possibly can. Like I've never done this before, but I'm not pussyfooting as they might say. Right. And so I wind up, I swing as hard as I can. What I did not realize, and what was explained to me after, is that when hockey players are doing their slap shots, they actually bring the stick down, flex it on the ice, and kind of fling the stick at the puck, and that's how they gain velocity. But I kind of took like a baseball golf swing, just kind of making point of contact. And I took a massive chunk out of the ice, and I felt like I shattered my wrist. It hurt so bad. I basically just punched the ice with a stick really hard. So then I reeled it in about to 90%, and everything was okay after that. But yeah, you pretty much called it. That exactly what you thought would happen happened.
Well, I didn't know that either about the puck or the stick dynamics. I think I would have done exactly the same thing as you did. Yeah.
And he's explaining it to me while I'm on I can't put this new concept together in what are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, that's so fun though, down on the rink. Like
it was super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only been to a couple hockey games. I mean, I got into the Blues. I've been a passive Blues supporter for my entire life. Especially, I have a lot of fond memories of the '90s with Brett Hull and that brief window when Wayne Gretzky was a Blue.
Tony Twist.
Yeah, for sure.
Al McInnes, Chris Pronger.
Wow, he's doing it, folks.
Other guys.
And then
Kachuk,
obviously 2019. Keith Kachuk, sure.
Boom.
2019, obviously, I watched a lot of the back half of the season, and then I watched a lot of the playoffs as it was really ramping up. Just jumped on the bandwagon, and I had a great time. But I've only been to a handful of games. But generally, like just going to any sort of live event, I'm probably going to have a good time. But I have the same, like I watched a lot on of the sport in 2019. I had the same sort of experience of you, which is just like, I know that there's a lot of detail happening in this moment,
right?
And there are plays and there's a lot of effort and specific effort happening. But to me, it just looks like chaos, and you just kind of hope that the puck go in the hole,
right?
And I will say, as you've hated hearing, as I've gotten really into soccer, which is essentially the same concept, but just slower and bigger, you know?
Yeah.
I imagine that I'd be able to like view hockey with a slightly better lens now, but I've just not taken that time to get into it, especially now that the Blues are sort of back in a middling state. It's not been, a desire of mine to get into hockey, but going to games is fun.
Yeah. Always have a good time. It is. I mean, essentially ice soccer, but
yeah,
faster.
There's probably some diehard hockey and soccer fans that hate everything that I just said, but like, fundamentally, big picture, thing go in net.
It's the same sport. Yeah. To me at least. Yeah. I don't care enough about either of them, so whatever.
Well,
you're the footy boy.
Yeah, I've gotten into soccer enough to at least be able to start to see how plays develop and stuff like that, which it took like more than half a season of watching basically every game to finally start to be like, okay, it's not just chaos 100% of the time.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's fun.
I could be a pro. That's really what I could be a pro tomorrow.
Sense. It is fun going down on the field of Major League Sports.
I'd been on a Major League Baseball field. I've been on a football field. I had never been on an NHL rink. That was really cool. So now I guess NBA court. I got to find a way onto an NBA court.
You just got to be rich and famous and get those courtside seats. Then you're basically, down there.
Yeah, I just got to get courtside seats. They are so expensive at the Nuggets game. They're like $1,200. So maybe someday.
I forget
subscribe to that Patreon, folks, so I can go to.
I forget where I was having this discussion, maybe with you on the podcast, but like in the NBA is kind of like the poster child for turning your league into like to becoming very successful from a fan standpoint and from like a culture and like media standpoint, right? Like the NBA is full of celebrity and full of stars and great ratings generally, and like has had a huge turnaround over the last several decades. And one thing that was pointed out about basketball as opposed to basically every other sport that really aided in basketball's ascension into the modern media market is the courtside concept. The fact that like the fans and who's in the stands, they're always on screen. Now, obviously with like football and baseball, though it's really big in football right now, with your T-Swifts, they can always do the shots of the box, but that's not the same as like you're just passively watching the game and right there, like directly next to the bench is some
Jack
celebrity.
Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson's there or whatever. And so
it's a place to be seen. Baseball is not like that. Football's not like that. Yeah.
It's kind of football's a little bit being like that, but it does make me think like in baseball every once in a while you'd see like, oh, there's Nelly behind home, and they're behind home plate. So baseball could do it with those behind home plate seats, but I don't know. I don't think that.
Man, if I was a famous person, I just want a box. Get me away from all these normies.
Yeah. The public. That's how you feel.
Yeah.
It's only your lack of funding that you have to interact with the public, is what you say.
Yes, and that is how I feel. I will not amend that statement one bit.
All right. Well, let's get into some real baseball talk. So we've got we did have a couple moves over the last week. A little surprising. These sorts of moves are kind of happening all the time, but still a little surprising. Do you want to run it through for us, Ben?
Yeah, the Cardinals announced on Monday that they've claimed first baseman / outfielder Alfsonso Rivas off waivers from the Angels. In a corresponding move, outfielder Moises Gomez was DFA'd. He is no longer a Schmardnell, which is really too bad. I'll go quick and kind of give my 2 cents on this. Alfsonso Rivas is a mostly first baseman. He does not really hit for power in his minor league and extremely limited major league looks. He is an above average hitter, which is nice. He hits around 300, but there's very little power. It's like a contact over power first baseman who's a decent glove type of guy. He's 26 years old. He swings the bat from the left side. I don't think that this is a move that is moving the needle for the Cardinals at all. I do think it's one that, or I guess what I don't really understand is that you have Nolan Gorman, you have Brendan Donovan, obviously Paul Goldschmidt exists, Alec Burleson, who we already mentioned, exists. All of those guys kind of seem to take on the role that Alfsonso Rivas is about to take on, although I think he's mostly just going to be a depth piece. Like how often he is on the big league 26-man roster, I'm not sure of that yet. And the Cardinals basically are saying we need more of the thing that we already have as opposed to Moises Gomez. We just can't. He is maxed out. He can offer the team no more. He has no more development left in him. And I find that to be the only part of this transaction that deserves criticism. Like, why give up on Moises Gomez when it's seemingly just to get something that you already have internally?
Yeah. Yeah, I know Moises Gomez was definitely seemed like a candidate to be non-tendered before he even got this far, before the Rule 5 draft and whatnot. Right. So the fact that he made it that far was a little surprising. It is also, though, like I don't know enough about the how the Cardinals value players and their decision-making process when you've got a guy like Moises Gomez who, leads your minor leagues in home runs and seems to have some potential real game power, but just never really ever gets a shot of utilizing it at the big leagues and is now just, sort of kicked to the side. Now, DFA'd, I haven't heard, maybe he has chosen minor league free agency. He could still end up being, staying in the Cardinals organization. So we'll see where he ends up. But I'm always a little surprised when you have someone who stands out that much and then they just never truly even give a shot. But also we both know the outfield is where the most depth is on this team. I mean, he's 8 on the depth chart for the outfield. So the odds of him getting any reasonable, meaningful at bats, is pretty low. And I guess theoretically, first base is there's less depth if you don't want to move any of those guys that you just said over to first base. And so it's just sort of stacking a depth piece. It's a really break glass sort of move to me. If we're seeing Rivas in the majors this year, it's something horrible has happened, you know? And they just think, well, if everything falls to shit, this is where we need our deep depth more than we need deep depth in the outfield.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to harp on it too much because it's really an inconsequential move. Both of these guys will probably not really impact any big league roster in any real way in the year in 2024. It's highly unlikely. It's it's more like I guess I just always bias towards keeping that tool in the organization over going for the guy who's kind of mid-level at everything.
Well, as fans, we all chase upside, right? We always want the exciting, the person who can come up and hit a long ball, even if they're going to strike out 40% of the time. We want that. Whereas organizations prefer that, or maybe don't prefer, but generally try to strike more of a balance than what we want as fans.
It's purely just philosophical. If I was in charge, I would rather make a bet on the guy with 70 grade power potentially figuring it out than finding the guy who's a little older and has no one thing that pops off the page. That being said, like, raising the floor is good, and Rivas probably raises the floor, and prudent baseball move.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's like buying homeowners insurance. Or, it's not exciting. It's just what you do because it's the smart thing to do.
Yeah. And, easy cut if you do end up, finding someone better.
Yeah. Which would also be great. Like, aiming a little higher would also be great. Like,
what? No.
Having, we're obviously the 26th man on the roster is Matt Carpenter, so maybe that spot's taken up. But raising that floor on the bench, raising that floor in AAA is always more fun than getting the 27-year-old first baseman who's not really a great fit for the position. But again, not the biggest deal. Maybe the Cardinals will click something in. Maybe Oli Marmol will work that Oli magic and they'll find some power.
That famous Oli magic that we all know and love.
It's just like a little princess sprinkling pixie dust or whatever they do to get the most out of this guy.
Dude, I always think of Oli Marmol as someone who can sprinkle little magic princess dust or whatever you said.
Yeah. He's that's what got him the job.
Yeah, I know. We all know this. The Cardinals made another move that is potentially more impactful and continues to be another I don't know, sort of flyer or another drop in this bucket of how the Cardinals have chosen to build their bullpen this offseason.
Yeah.
What do you got? What you want to run us down this one real quick?
Yeah. So Josh James, who was a young reliever for the Astros for a handful of years, although he's been quite injured since 2020, the Cardinals signed him. He's a right-handed reliever to a minor league contract. He's 30 years old. He really hasn't pitched for the last 2 seasons, and he was non-tendered by the Astros after undergoing season-ending surgery to repair his right flexor tendon in 2022. The reason why I think this is exciting is he is still he'll be 31 coming into this year, and the guy has top shelf elite fastball velocity when he is healthy. And like Nate already alluded to, I think bringing in arm talent in all of its various shapes and forms and rehabs and unproven in minor league and whatever, I think it's all a good idea. And if you get Josh James when he's healthy, he's a guy that strikes out everybody. He's a guy whose fastball averages over 97 miles per hour, can hit triple digits. And he's had a couple of seasons where he has been a very productive major league relief pitcher. So all of those, like, it makes sense. This is essentially grabbing a player for free who has had past success. And maybe he has a great spring training and he ends up in your bullpen somewhere. So we've talked about, I mean, like, I don't know if we could be nicer to Mo and Bloom and the whole group that has been putting this bullpen together. I think their methodology in this offseason has been exactly what I want it to be. The only thing that they haven't done for me is gone and got the Josh Hader or
like one more, like, we've got all these flyers, but we know these guys are going to stick. Because while I have generally have some faith that the Cardinal bullpen as is today is going to be really good in 2024, there is still that element of like, okay, if Helsley gets hurt again, everything starts to cascade from there. And what if 9 out of 10 of these guys don't actually click like we want? We end up kind of looking like we did at the back half of last year. So I agree completely. That sort of cherry on top, the crown of the whole thing would have been nice with Hader would have been crazy, but like really there was him and then a whole tier of people below that, and many of which are still available. So we'll see, but it certainly seems like that ship has sailed and the Cardinals are more likely just going to keep doing this. But generally I like it. I mean, if you're interested, look up Josh James in 2021. 2019. So a little bit longer ago, but a 14.67 K per nine, over 61 innings. So that's almost 100 strikeouts over 60 innings. Pretty good.
Yeah, he's a big guy too. If you look at his baseball savant, there's just a lot of potential in this. He's not that young anymore. This guy though, so I think
young
it makes a
as
lot
far
of
as
sense.
innings pitched in the major leagues. But what's funny, if you look at his steamer projection, I don't know how they come up with this exact projection. He is projected for 2024 one inning.
I'm going to predict right now that he bests that one inning.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think, like, talking about the pitching staff from like the 30,000 foot view, like pulling back for a second, if you are, and punting is not the right word because Sonny Gray is a real major league starter. Miles Michaelis should be fine. And then, kind of descends from there. But if you're essentially kind of going in with this rotation, then it makes a ton of sense to have like 12 potential bullpen arms that you might have to pull on or use at any point. And that's guys like Josh James, who I could see him really going either way. I could see him making the bullpen out of spring training. I could see him going to AAA and getting called up, when an injury happens. And there's a lot of guys that fit that same that same build. Like, where's Matthew Liberatore fitting in? Where's Simmer Bursay, Kloffenstein? Hopefully Drew Rom isn't really making any serious major league dent, but there's a lot of those names that, because of the nature of how the rotation is built.
We're expecting a lot of innings from the bullpen.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And, that's just the way it is. That's just the fact of how this team is being built.
And, you play the hot hand in the bullpen, and they're giving themselves a lot of potential for hot hands. And someone that we haven't talked about, if we're gonna dig in on the bullpen a little bit, someone that we haven't talked about a lot recently, but I feel like has been maybe forgotten a little bit in this offseason as this bullpen is being built, is the ascension of Jojo Romero at the end of last year. I'm very excited about Jojo Romero, and I think between Helsley, Gallegos, and Romero.
Kittredge.
Now Kittredge is in there, but like just from the in-house young, have a ton of control sorts of guys, like Romero, I think is going to be a big piece. And Kittredge, I will not be surprised if he is our 7th or 8th inning guy. But like out of the gates, frankly, but definitely by the end of April.
Yeah, there's a lot of reason to be really optimistic on how the Cardinals are set up from the bullpen. Andre Palante and the deathball are coming to life in the offseason.
Should we watch deadball again in honor of Palante?
You're familiar with the deathball and this whole thing that's being developed right now, right?
Yeah, kind of. But if you want to give an overview.
So really, all you really need to know is that the death ball is a curveball that essentially spins less efficiently, meaning that it has less drag on the air. So it breaks like a curveball, but you throw it in like the mid 80s. And the spin being less efficient tricks the batter's eyes into thinking the ball is going to bite more, because they're used to seeing a traditional curveball. And Tread Athletics, which is a pitching and hitting factory. I think it's in Florida or something like that.
It's another drive line, right? Yeah. Like they're the same sort of thing, like a third party lab for baseball.
Right. And they are kind of getting credit for teaching Jordan Montgomery the death ball. Andre Palante is now learning the death ball. Other players are learning the death ball. And if you go back to the Rangers versus Astros championship series this year, Jordan Alvarez got bested by Jordan Montgomery's death ball like 3 ABs in a row. And it kind of got a lot of press around that. And long story, like all I was trying to get at is death ball a good name for a pitch, or is that stupid?
I was sitting here thinking, like, what a hilarious name for like a curveball. You know,
yeah, it's basically like just an augmented curveball.
Yeah, we really everything just keeps ramping up. Right, this is a death ball.
Yeah,
an 80-mile-per-hour curveball. I think it's pretty stupid, but I also I like like the more absurd we can make anything and everything, especially it's something that is so buttoned up. Like it does sound a little more appealing if you're like, oh, I know you're not a big baseball fan, but have you heard about the death ball that they're developing? Yeah. Come on in. Welcome to the sport.
Right. Yeah. Does that welcome people, or does that just alienate it? It's just for us freaks.
It just goes
and
it
alienates
deeper.
Other people.
Yeah, probably the latter, because when you do oh, I want to hear about this dead ball or death ball.
Yeah.
And then you watch, you're like, oh.
Well, let me tell you about spin efficiency and drag.
Yeah. You mean it doesn't split in half and there's razor wire in between the two halves and it cuts someone's head off?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's much. I mean, I find it interesting, and I'm sure some people listening to this find it interesting, but is it interesting? Probably not. I don't know.
Like next there's going to be like, we've developed the massacred ball.
Yeah.
Decapitation zone.
Yeah, it's just like a slightly augmented sinker. So it cuts a little bit instead of sinks and runs, and I don't know.
Multiball.
Now that would be exciting.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you, if that rule existed, would you have to throw them both in the same hand at the same time?
No, I can't imagine. I think, interesting. So if we're introducing multiball into baseball, I think you're throwing back-to-back pitches in like a concentrated amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you throw one and then you have to like wind up and throw the second really quickly.
Yeah.
And so the hitter can hit both, and if both go into play, they're both in play. Or you could wait for one.
Okay, here's my suggestion, and then maybe we should get back to the show. But what I would do if I was setting this rule, if you're a right-handed pitcher, the shortstop comes up behind you, and you both throw a ball over the plate at the exact same time. But if the batter gets a hit, that batter gets double whatever the reward. So if they got a single, it becomes a double. If they got a double, it's a home run.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we do a triple, but I want 2 balls at the same time.
How about let's take it off of the pitcher and the batter. We're putting multi-ball solely in the hands of the defense.
On the offense,
No, on defense. So here's what happens.
Okay.
There's a air cannon like back behind up and above the umpire maybe, but like right behind the battery. And we have these cameras now that are tracking the exact exit velocity, the exact launch angle, everything.
Oh, okay.
And so interesting. You make contact, and I'd say maybe there's like a multi-ball zone, so if it's like a 13% launch angle at a exit velocity of 91.2 or above, it triggers a multi-ball, and that cannon fires a second ball out into the field at like maybe either the opposite angle of where the ball off the bat went, or maybe in the same angle. So now like the right fielder has 2 balls they have to deal with.
I think countering the angle would be if somebody hits a screaming liner down the right field line, and then a screaming liner is also going down the left field line. That would be really exciting.
Yeah, I forget what they do. Blurn's ball in Futurama has a multi-ball, and I think it just I think like something comes out of the ground and like 8 balls just come out and start bouncing around. But I like my idea: a single ball just fired out of a cannon, matching the velocity and angle of the one that came off the bat.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. If you have a better idea for multi-ball, tweet us at Talk About Birds on Twitter, or email us talkaboutbirds@gmail.com.
Yeah. We'd love to hear your ideas on multi-ball. What were we talking about before this? The dead ball.
Josh James.
Josh James. Yes.
Josh James. Oh, Andre Palante. The bullpen. The bullpen will be good.
Yeah. Right.
Probably.
The bullpen will be good. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. So Spring training has obviously been announced, and we're starting to see lists of who's been invited. We have our non-roster invitees list, a chance for young players to make a name for themselves. Maybe some people who are picked up off waivers. Just a real chance for these guys to really show what they've got. Anyone kind of standing out to you on this list of non-roster invitees?
I think all Cardinals fans are probably pretty excited to see Cesar Prieto and Thomas Sajasi for really the first time, with the rest of the big club, first time that they'll be on like proper television. I'm very excited about both these players. I'm exceedingly excited about Sajasi and where he is going to land. I think that there's a lot of interesting players on this list. Victor Scott, also a very interesting player.
Of course.
I am curious because of Sajasi's age, because of how he performed last year. I'm curious if he has like a Brendan Donovan path in front of him, if he could maybe leapfrog some other people and end up cracking the big league roster with a strong spring training. He seems to kind of have that era about him. And with it, I think he's 23, 24 years old. And the Cardinals, he's a Cardinals kind of player. He's one of those guys that they like to do this with. They did it with Paul DeYoung and Matt Carpenter back in the day. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens. And again, just getting my eyes on Prieto and on a big league field and all that is going to be really exciting.
Yeah. Same. And we were just talking about the bullpen. Vilking Rodriguez is on here. He's a guy that we really didn't get last year, and I'm excited to see what he could possibly do. We've got Tekoa Roby on there, who I think we'll see in 2024 at the big league level. Tink Hence should be fun. Got to give a shout out to Archimedes Gamboa, S tier name on the team. I'm just hoping for some Archimedes Gamboa content just for the name alone. The Cardinals have an interesting prospect list. We were talking about it 2 weeks ago where like a lot of names on the top 500. No one there's not anyone on here that is like a star coming into spring training in the same way that like maybe we had a Jordan Walker last year.
Right.
But some people that I think we will likely see as Cardinals for a long time. This is their first spring with us. Yeah. And it's exciting.
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit. I do think that so I said Sajasi, a solid spring could allow him to crack the roster. And I think all eyes are going to be on Victor Scott, right? He's had a very exciting 4 or 5 months postseason after the baseball season. And I think while I don't expect him to steal the center field job from Dylan Carlson and Tommy Edman, like he could, it's not. Yeah. There's not.
I think we're all expecting him to be the center fielder by the end of the year. Just when that happens and why does it happen? Either from his own exceeding performance or maybe the lack of someone else's performance. We'll see what version of his come up looks like. But I mean, possibly. I would say that it's still not the same sort of hype as someone like Jordan Walker coming in. It was the story of last spring was Jordan Walker. And while this is a story, I think there's a lot of guys I think Sajasi is very similar where it's like he is almost certainly going to be a major league player in 2024. I feel pretty certain of that. Is it out of the gates or is it in August? We'll see.
Right. I'll pick on 2 other guys, and I don't think that they're under organizational pressure by any means, but I'm kind of looking at this spring training as being fairly important for Michael McGreevy and Cooper Jerpy. Jerpy healthy. For me, it's a real big question. Is he going to be a starter or is he going to turn into a reliever? And I don't think that this spring training is going to like set that in stone, but I think it will tell us quite a bit. And then McGreevy, he didn't have the greatest 2023, and I'm curious to see what he looks like coming back from that. If his velo is up at all, and just to see kind of what we got. Again, I don't think the Cardinals are like ready to cut these guys by any means,
right.
but I think important spring trainings for both of those young pitchers.
Yeah. Well, they're getting into the point where like the hype is dying down. And so now they're entering into post-hype types of guys. And that is, where some people flourish. And it also might be sort of the last you start to hear some of these names before they just sort of blend back into the minor league organization. So yeah, I mean, also just high level, it's fun to talk about spring training and the players that will be playing.
It's coming so soon. We're almost there, people.
So we wanted to touch on the interview that Xavier Scruggs, great guy. I love Xavier Scruggs. Everybody loves Xavier Scruggs.
It is kind of like, for such a nothing player, he's done quite well for himself post playing.
Yeah. Well, he's one of those dudes. He turned his access, and he's more personality than maybe player, and he turned that into a career, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's very charming, and it's all. Yeah. Must be nice.
Yeah. So Xavier Scruggs interviewed Oli Marmol, and it was kind of interesting. Do you want to talk us through it?
It was interesting. There were interesting parts. It was nice seeing Oli Marmol not with his back against the wall and like like scratching and clawing at Derek Gould and Katie Wu and our lovely beat reporters who are in there every day. Because that's kind of like the last image I have of Oli Marmol. He kind of cooled down at the end of the season once it was all done, but it was nice to see him. He was in street clothes. They talked about how Xavier Scruggs and Oli Marmol played together in the minor leagues, so they have a existing relationship. And I think like it's easy to forget how young Oli Marmol is, especially for his role. But in the interview, this was we knew this before, but it kind of reminded me of the fact that he managed his first major league or a professional game when he was, I think he said 24 years old.
Yeah.
So
he's been the wonder kid, or Wunderkind or whatever.
Wunderkind.
Like, from for so long. It's part of the reason he is in the position he is now.
It's just kind of amazing, like especially when you're going from the other two guys who have managed the Cardinals recently, Mike Matheny, who had not a day of managing a baseball team before he got the big job, and then Mike Schilt, who had kind of scratched and clawed for 25 years to finally get to a spot. Then you have this guy who is already in the bigs before most players even hang up their cleats. It's pretty amazing. So I think it was good to kind of check ourselves on that. He's still young. He still has a lot of room to grow. And there is a reason why he's here. He's special. He did things that a lot of other people have never done, hence him getting the position at his age. And I want to like Oli Marmol. I don't really know my rationale behind that, but I want to root for him.
Well, I think that's we like to say that we're a positive podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously the last year has resulted in all of us becoming a little more cynical and a little more negative about the general like state of the Cardinals and Marmol and everybody top to bottom. Chief Beef DeWitt himself, like there's a lot of negativity and rightfully so, but like I think that's not what our base state is.
Yeah.
We were all very excited when Marmol got hired because of all of this pedigree and that like unique path and how young he is and whatnot. And a lot of that is soured after 23, but like I'm ready to love, I want to like Marmol. I want to like all of them,
Yeah, sure. The other thing I thought was interesting from the conversation was he really talked about analytics, how the Cardinals use analytics, and how he is constantly having debates and conversations with the analytics department around game management. And he also, and he said this with a certain level of authority, but he sets the lineups. It is not being handed down to him. And I never know what to think of these conversations. Is it something that we should even really care about? But this interview, he was down to earth. He was still toting the company line. He's still a Cardinals lifer. He's still
sure.
Some of the lines are fed, but it reminded me of why we should like Oli Marmol. He embraces analytics. He uses them as a tool. He can explain those things to the players. And hopefully, if his team isn't absolute dog shit this year, he can deploy those analytics in an efficient way that allows the team to be maybe a little bit better than they look on paper, because he's being smart, dynamic, and quick.
Yeah. I mean, I think we at least tried to walk this line last year where we were saying, like, generally speaking, Marmol's game decisions were good or fine. Like, I never really had a problem with him in the bullpen. Everyone loves to nitpick the individual decisions post game, but it's like when everybody is playing terribly, it kind of doesn't matter what decision you make when your entire bullpen is taxed and there are no more good options available out there. Like, yeah, sure, maybe this guy would have had a better outcome than this guy, but you're kind of fucked either way. So, like, I think generally speaking, I've liked his game management and his lineups are fine. You know, we weren't getting Matt Carpenter batting fourth. Well, not yet, at least. We'll see.
It's coming.
But it was all the other stuff surrounding it. The people manager stuff that we had the concerns with. So I'm not, I don't think that's necessarily new information that he is so connected to the analytics. But it is a nice refresher, when everything about him and his management style has been so clouded by such a shit season. I think it does help to be reminded that he's trying to approach it the way that we, as metric, led fans, I think you and I, like, we really value that. And so I think he wants that too, which is good.
I think it would be healthy for us and Oli and Cardinals fans to kind of we need a little refresher. We need a little reset button. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs I think we need to take a beat and it's all going to be fine. And we need to wash last year out of our hair.
I'm ready to love, Ben. I'm ready to go into 2024 right now. The Cardinals are projected to be in the top 6 or 7 of the NL. And that's the playoffs, baby. And I want some playoff baseball. And we don't know what the Cubs are going to do yet, but some names are coming off the board and they're still not on the Cubs yet. So right now, well,
and this is what I talk. Everybody's so pessimistic about those projections. It's like, you have to look at what projections are doing. They're not saying this is going to happen. They're saying that on average, this is what is like the
run
most
this a
likely
million times. Exactly. And these are the odds. Yeah.
So what that means is that the Cardinals' floor is much higher than I think a lot of people think it is. That's all that this means, is that there's a lot of mitigated risk, assuming last year doesn't happen, which seems unlikely because of all the reasons that we've talked about over and over again. But the people getting mad at projection systems is always hilarious to me. It's like, this is a computer.
Most teams don't have Goldschmidt, Arenado, Walker, Newbar, Wilson, Contreras. The core of the Cardinals is good. So is great, really.
We'll move on to somebody we already were making fun of him a little bit, but somebody who's not part of the core of the Cardinals. And who is kind of a man without a home right now. Like, if you look at roster resource on Fangraphs, Alec Burleson is not on the 26-man roster. And now, is that because of Matt Carpenter? Maybe. Does that make sense? Maybe.
Which is funny because roster resource is very good, and and he is on the 26-man. So roster resource is kind of saying, like, yeah, but is he really on the 26-man?
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, roster resources is a section within Fangraphs that really projects what someone's roster will look like. It gives you a ton of information from their salary to their service time to just kind of everything you might want to know for like a high level view of someone's roster. And it tries to in the preseason like this, it tries to project like the depth charts and things like that, and it updates all season. It's great.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page here, the current projected bench for the Cardinals is Ivan Herrera, Matt Carpenter, Jose Fermin, and Dylan Carlson, which is probably pretty accurate. Maybe swap out Fermin for JC or one of those other guys we were talking about, maybe Burleson. But anyways, back to Burleson. He chatted about his offseason homework And what was described as a no-holds-barred talk kickstarted an offseason in which Burleson changed his diet, dropped 12 pounds, and drilled so much in the outfield that he feels much more comfortable out there. When talking to John Denton of MLB.com, Burleson said, the body, getting everything moving better, losing weight, getting faster. I'm checking all those boxes. I'm ticking off a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish this offseason. It's coming together. And I think when there's reporting like this, when there are stories like this, I think you always take it with a grain of salt. I think when you're looking at a guy who's had the track record of offensive success that Alec Burleson has had, and the fact that last year was his first real year in the big leagues and getting acclimated and everything like that, not to mention how much bad luck he had last year.
Yeah.
I think you can have permission to get a little hyped on this. I think it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. If you're wondering why Ben's volume sort of went real low real quick there while he was screaming about Alec Burleson, it's because he threw his hands up in the air and leaned backwards to like almost lament to the gods about Alec Burleson's bad luck.
I'm getting excited over here, Nate.
Yeah, well, same. I mean, it's a little bit, best shape of his life, which is like a trope of spring. You
got to be careful with that. Yeah,
everyone's in the best shape of their life, which is great. We want that, of course, but like you're going to hear this a lot. Everyone's coming in best shape of their life.
Yeah.
Jordan Walker now weighs 450 pounds and can bench press a truck. Like we're going to be hearing these stories, right? So you do, like you already said, you want to take it with a little bit of grain of salt. But what I look for are people targeting areas that they know they need to be better and making concerted effort to improve at those. And whether losing weight is whatever, the weight thing for these monsters is so like fickle. For some people 260 is small, and losing 12 pounds like for one guy means something, and for another guy it's like you lose that much in an afternoon. But anyway, him saying like I specifically wanted to get better in the outfield and I wanted to be more mobile makes a lot of sense for him.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be fighting for playing time. And if they can't trust him in the outfield, I think we saw last year that like the Cardinals went briefly with this idea of we'll just out-hit like our bad outfield will just out-hit the runs they're giving up. And I think they don't want to do that anymore. So they need to have some reasonable confidence that Alec Burleson is not going to be absolute trash out there. So he needs to do that. And then just, he's a big dude and he's not particularly fast. And so, but he hits the shit out of the ball. So
that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Increasing mobility with that bat speed or that exit velocity, like that's a recipe for success. When you're evaluating a player, look, max or average exit velocity and then mobility, ability to get down and around the base paths are such key indicators to long-term success at the MLB level. And so he kind of already has the hit the shit out of the ball side of it. Now being able to do the mobility and not be a shitty outfielder, like it makes a lot of sense to me that he's targeting this thing. So we were both like, really hammering the like we like Alec Burleson train last year, even though he consistently had like virtually no success. But I'm also hyped about him this year. I think I love to hear those things. We'll see how it translates to results, but it sounds like he's been targeting what matters.
Yeah, when you look at his numbers from last year and you look at his career numbers and you look at the underlying metrics that like you're talking about, the velocity and all that stuff, like he's been in his first year, not only was the defense not great, but he had a lot of bad luck. And if these two things can coalesce where he is moderately better in the outfield and has average luck, could be a pretty good player. Like maybe a couple WAR off the bench. Maybe he steals some starts in right field. He's got a strong arm. I want to believe.
Yeah, same. I think like the upside is there. It doesn't necessarily look like it, and even his projections were pretty bad. I think you and I talked about that recently. Like we were expecting a little bit better because of the underlying numbers. But I'm still pretty high on Alec Burleson. I know you and I both said like he's also a very good trade candidate, which is also true. Two things can be true. We can be very excited about Burleson and also think he probably should be traded.
Yeah,
but I would love for him
hyped on him.
Yeah, I'd love for him to be a Cardinal and for him to be successful. Like there will likely be at bats at DH, at first base, and at right field, and so see what he can do with him.
Hell yeah, brother!
Hell yeah, Chief Beef. That's what I was calling him last year, but he's thinned down.
Yeah, it's a couple fewer
Lancelin, the new Chief Beef.
Beef and for sure, yes.
Beef and cheddar. All right. Anything else you want to talk about Cardinal specific before we move on? Okay. Well, we're going to touch on a bunch of the movement around the league. Some pretty big news this last week. But before we do, we want to remind everybody that this show is listener supported on Patreon. If you've been enjoying the show and want to support us and support its continued existence and the work that goes into bring it to you every single week, we would absolutely love and appreciate if you joined our Patreon. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. We have a number of different sort of perks and things like that that you can take advantage of. The one that everyone gets for joining the Patreon is access to the Bird Scored. It's a private Discord server. Having a constant bunch of great conversation in there. It's a really good place if you're looking for Cardinal conversation, but away from the noise of the broader social media, that is out there right now. It's a great place. We're also going to be recruiting for our second annual fantasy baseball league, which I'll be defending my title. Come at me. I can't wait. I can't wait for that. I think we'll start that up, start setting dates and things on that pretty soon. Talking about patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you want to support the show in a different way, consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really does help. It helps us show up in search results and trending and things like that, which podcasts are still primarily spread through word of mouth or things like that. So, we are really appreciative and grateful for people who have written us reviews. Like the review from J/Hota, who called us a comforting St. Louis Cardinals podcast, which a surprising word choice, but I love that. So thank you. We are comforted by your listenership, Jay Hota. So
gotta be a real sicko to be comforted by this.
Thank you to this person for writing this thing. You real sicko has been called you. So Ben, where can people find us online otherwise?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. We are on Instagram at Talking About Birds. You can email us thoughts, questions, concerns, threats to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. We have a TikTok. You can follow us on TikTok. This podcast is available on Spotify. You can listen to us there, and we can be in your Wrapped at the end of the year. Listen to us a bunch, and I don't know, we'll like that, I guess. You can find all of that information at talkingaboutbirds.com. Again, that's talkingaboutbirds.com. And do not forget, Nathan, I'm talking to you.
Benjamin.
You could do this too if you wanted to. You can call us at 848-48-BIRDS. That's 848-482-4737. Call us, leave us a voicemail, give us a text message, however you'd like to interact, but reach out, holler at your boy. That's everything.
Yeah. I meant to bring this up last week, but we completely forgot to plug the phone number on our 100th episode last week. So we got a fun message from Michael Q in Canada. Suggesting a new t-shirt design, which was great. So, whatever it is that you want to talk to us about, let us know, text or call. We're desperate. We're happy to hear it. Yep. All right. So there was some big news over the last week, both on the field and off the field. Ben, why don't you run us through some of it?
Yeah, I think this is some of my favorite news of the off season. Being somebody who cares about the Orioles and just the health of baseball and good owners, and we complain about the Angelos family all the time on this show because they're idiots. Well, guess what? Great news, Orioles fans and baseball fans. They are selling the team. The Orioles have reportedly been sold to a group led by two private equity billionaires, led by a man named David Rubenstein, who is a native of Baltimore and is known for his charitable endeavors, along with a couple of other people. There's also reports that smaller ownership roles or other people have bought into it. One of those people being Cal Ripken Jr., which I think is a sign that this new ownership group plans to spend money and be competitive. It would be very hard for me to imagine them roping up a former, Hall of Famer, a former Oriole great, without the intention to kind of push the chips in a little bit further than the Angelos family has done previously. Another little point of news here is that, for all the complaining and press leaking and all the things of how baseball is not a profitable sport for owners, it should be noted that the Angelos family purchased the Orioles for $173 million in 1993, which, by the way, at that time, people were reporting, how are they going to fill the team with players when they're spending that much on the team? What's going to happen? So on and so forth. So they turned their $173 million investment into $1.725 billion. Yeah, good for them.
Yeah.
One other, and then
we love it, don't we, folks?
We love it. I'm so happy that they were able to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
The other factor that I think is funny and interesting about this is that the Orioles are valued, obviously, a market value. They just sold for $1.725 billion. And I know the A's are trying to sell for $2 billion. That seems like an impossibility. If you compare those two franchises, assets, players, market, everything, there's no way.
If the Orioles in Oakland would, or maybe be like a successful team in Oakland, maybe more valuable than a successful team in Baltimore, but
they're not.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, yeah, you're obviously buying a shit product if you are buying the Athletic, but like,
you're buying the laundry.
Yeah. I mean, I have a difficult time putting my faith in private equity people who are, buying this team. But as far as what we do know about them, certainly seems like they're going to be better than the Angelos group, which is a low bar to jump, but still seems like they can jump that bar. I also know one of the main guys, he's 74 years old. So as you and I have said a lot, we like him old.
Secret weapon. Yes.
We want him near death, chasing those legacies, we want our older we want our owners old and dying. That's the best chance we've got at managing towards winning versus managing towards bottom line.
Fully agree and fully co-sign. Now watch, we'll see how the these things usually take a while, but I wonder if this means they'll go sign a Jordan Montgomery and a Blake Snell and a Cody Belling. Are they going to make some big ownership?
Will it happen immediately?
There are still big names out there, and if the Orioles added a single starting pitcher of note, that would they would be in such a better spot.
Yeah.
It has been honestly, it's been idiotic the way that they've been running the team the last couple of years. Make a decision, improve the team. You are so flush with young talent. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Marlins, where it's been they obviously have very strong player development, and they have a ton of brilliant people on the ground doing the job. But the high end, the final decision makers on what you do with the money to go out and augment the club outside of player development has been trash. So, hopefully they're better. It'll be better for the sport.
Hopefully. I agree. It's just so much. Yeah. Especially in the East. It's so much fun over there. Yeah. In other news, the Mariners have acquired Jorge Polanco from the Twins for reliever Justin Topa, starter Anthony DeScalfani, prospects Gabriel Gonzalez and Darren Bowen. Kind of a we were talking about this a little bit before the show. It's like kind of a big deal, but also not a big deal. But the Mariners are probably better, and the Twins are probably better. It's fine, I guess.
Well, I don't know that the Twins are necessarily better in 2024 from this trade, though maybe. This is definitely
they can put Julian at second, who seems to be promising. They get DeScalfani and they get Topa, which are good for right now.
Mm-hmm. And Gabriel Gonzalez is a relatively well-regarded prospect, so he's maybe the highest ceiling of anyone on this, except for maybe DeScalfani if he truly returned to effective starter. That's obviously very valuable. And then from the Mariners side, like I like this trade for the Mariners. The Mariners are in win now mode, and they need help all over the place, but like offense is where they really need. They need more pieces there. And Blanco, he's had a couple injury ridden seasons, but when he's healthy, he's good. He's underrated. He hit 33 bombs in 2021. Last year, he was on about a 3 WAR pace. But he only played half the season. And so if they can just plug in a 3 WAR offensive first player in at second base, I think it's a good move for him. And they didn't necessarily give up any. Like Gabriel Gonzalez might become something, but as of right now, they didn't really give up anything that helps them, or they didn't give up anything that will hurt their 2024 season. All they did, in my opinion, is help their 2024 season. And so I think it's a good move for them. I mean, the Mariners have just been flinging trades left and right.
They really have.
Acquisition of DeScalfani was confusing. So here's the other side of that. I think it's a good move for him. This could be a win-win trade for both sides.
Yeah, the Mariners have added Jorge Polanco, Mitch Garver, Luke Raley, Mitch Haniger, Luis Urias, and Sebi Zavala to their 26-man roster just really in the past month and a half or something like that. DePoto has just been going ham. And I think it's all been pretty good.
For the most part, I think
it's a weird team, but with that pitching staff, they just got to hit a little bit.
The pitching and Julio as your core, they just need that's why I like the Julio or this Polanco trade. This is a big lift the floor thing. Yeah. He's not going to go and win them the division, but he's going to help everything be a little bit better. So I think it's a good move for him.
Pretty solid. Moving down, we got quite a few free agent signings over this past week. The Mets have just re-signed Adam Ottavino, 1 year, $4.5 million. I'll say this about a couple of the moves I'm going to talk about here soon, but that's one that, like the Cardinals, just go get a guy like that, a guy with a little bit of track record. That salary is nothing. It moves the needle slightly. But I like that move. It's a smart, cheap move.
Yeah, I agree. There's a bunch of there's like 5 reliever signings on this list that all this would have been nice for the Cardinals.
Well, I'll hit the other reliever signings and then we'll do the rest. The Rangers signed David Robertson, 1 year, $11.5 million. This and I'll say this about the next one also. This was one that I think made a lot of sense for the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. I really like David Robertson. He's been really, really good for a long time. Would I pay that much for him? That's probably a little more than he is worth, but I like the deal for the Rangers.
Yeah. They're flush with WS money, World Series money, baby.
All right.
The Cubbies. I to abbreviate it.
Yeah, no, that was sick. I loved it.
Thanks.
The Cubbies sign Hector Neris, 1 year, $9 million. Another guy that'll slot into the back of their bullpen that could have been a Cardinal. The Padres, they're having such a weird offseason. They're like, we're going to train Juan Soto, and then we're going to give relievers 4 years or longer.
Every reliever gets around $5 million, but we're going to have them for years.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. They signed Wandy Peralta, 4 years, $16.5 million.
Sure. They're doing the same thing the Cardinals are doing, except for they're doing it with major league contracts at low $1 million amounts.
It's bizarre. Yeah. Not what I would do. But here we are. The Blue Jays have signed Justin Turner to a 1 year, $13 million deal.
Good move.
He had a good year last year.
Yeah. And it's Justin Turner. Everyone loves Justin Turner.
I really think they should have brought back Matt Chapman rather than going with essentially IKF and Justin Turner at third base.
That's fair.
But I bet he has a good year. Leadership, beardness, AL East pedigree, championship caliber player, so on and so forth. All those.
Looking at his year last year, I didn't realize just how bad he was defensively. So maybe they'll.
He DH'd a lot last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see what penalized him.
Yeah. We'll see where they stick him. But yeah, I don't know. Everyone seems to love Justin Turner. It's just made me kind of like him too.
Yeah. Adam Frazier and the Royals link up on a 1-year, $8 million deal. It's about as boring as a major league contract gets, but Adam Frazier is still a big league player. What are the Royals going to be next year, Nate? It is. I don't really get them.
Third place in the AL Central.
Are they trying?
I think that they are. I don't know about the Frazier deal. But they're obviously in rebuild there. Then maybe this falls into it. They've clearly been signing guys on 1-year deals, hoping that they pop a little bit and they can trade them, which I think is a smart move.
Sure.
They did that with Aroldis Chapman last year. Maybe that's what they're doing with him here. He's had some success in the past. This is definitely a lift of the floor move. They need more than that, but they also have some very exciting high-end players. Bobby Witt might be one of the best players in baseball now. And so sometimes you can just lift the floor around those types of guys and you start to win games. So we'll see.
Yeah. It would be fun if they were good. And let's see. Oh, yes, we have the Diamondbacks signed Jock Peterson, 1 year, $12.5 million. This one, I don't think there's too much analysis to do. The Diamondbacks need a little more power. They go get a guy who provides one thing, which is power, at a 1-year deal. I think, pretty much no brainer. And probably good for the World Series losers, I would assume.
Yeah, it's not too expensive, and he's been bouncing around, and he hit ball hard, so
he should be good. Hit ball hard, yeah. And final piece of news: the Tigers signed Colt Keith, a infield prospect with a decent reputation, to a $28.6425 million contract.
Thanks for going that deep on the decimals.
Yeah, I got you. So 6 years, $28.6425 million. The contract can max out at $82 million over 9 years, with 3 club options. And this is an exciting deal for a number of reasons. I think Colt Keith is probably going to be a fairly solid bat first prospect, and this means he'll probably start on the big league roster, which getting young, talented guys on the big league roster is always good. I think it's signaling that the Tigers front office is done being stupid. And I think they were caught with Al Avila. They just have some terrible contracts in the past 10, 15 years. And this one, they're putting themselves out there a little bit. But I still think it's smart. The kid gets a little security. And the last thing I want to say is, this kind of thing I'd love to see the Cardinals do.
Yeah.
Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Don. Yeah. There's so many names that you could pick that a deal like this would make a lot of sense. And the Cardinals just have shown an unwillingness to do that for the past, I don't know, was Paul DeYoung the last one that they extended early?
Yeah, maybe. And most of their extensions have all gone horribly when they have decided to do it. Matt Carpenter.
Well, extending a guy when he's 22 and extending a guy when he's 34 are two very different things.
Yeah, agreed. Obviously, I think we all have been clamoring for this version for Jordan Walker. It's one of the reasons why the Braves are just so freaking good and will be for the foreseeable future, because they've locked up all these dudes the moment they show some long-term capacity at the major league level, or right before they reach that level, like Colt Keith. I think Colt Keith is going to be very good. And, now he has generational wealth and the Tigers have some security. So I don't know what this would look like for Jordan Walker at this point. I think we saw enough in 2023 that it would probably need to be a lot more than what Colt Keith just got. But I still think no matter what, it's a discount than what he will likely get when he every year he's just going to get more expensive. But we don't know what Jordan Walker wants. They're like, we do want to avoid the trap of just assuming everybody is open to something like this and that like these things can just be done no matter what. Like there's a possibility that Jordan Walker's like, hell no, I know what I'm worth. I'll take 6 years of only making, hundreds of thousands of dollars and, millions through arbitration for my fat payday when I'm 26 or whatever. Because he's going to hit free agency at 25 or 26 years old. Like he's set up.
Cardinals don't sign him before then.
Yeah. So I don't want to just assume that the Cardinals aren't doing it because they don't want to, but maybe they've had those conversations and just we don't know how it went. But yeah, like this is the thing that it seems like smart organizations are doing now. So where are you at, Cardinals? The guy right now to do it, if you really believe it, the guy to do it for right now is Mason Wynn. His value has not, like last year, we saw the defense, but there's still the risk of the bat not coming around. And so if you really want that like deal that's going to end up being crazy excess value, he's the guy to do it for. But I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, we have no reason to think it will because it hasn't. So
yeah, good for the Tigers though.
That wraps up league news.
All right, Ben. Well, as we head into 2024, the Cardinals are set to go in with their 8th different starting outfield in the last 8 years.
Wow.
And so today, we're going to see how well you remember the previous starting outfields in another edition of Who Charted. So shout out to at the Ryan Shull on Twitter. I pulled this list from them. So this is hard. So we're gonna try to do this. I think the easiest way will be to go backwards and see. You don't even necessarily have to give me their position. Just what were if you can, obviously that might make it easier for you to actually think of it through the positions. But for this, I'm just looking for who were the 3 starting outfielders on opening day, going back to 2017. Okay. So let's start in 2023.
Tyler O'Neill in center. We had, I want to say it was Lars in left and Walker in right.
Yep. All right. You got it. That was 2023. It's only getting harder from there. 2022.
2022. So Bader in center.
Yep.
O'Neill in left.
Yep.
And I think was the opening day right fielder Newt? No, I don't think it was. I think he came up. I don't think he started there. Wasn't Tommy Edman? Edman would have been at short. Donovan was at second, I think. Maybe it was Newt though, or Dylan. Oh God, I'm gonna say Dylan Carlson in right.
You got it. It was Dylan Carlson.
Ooh, okay.
2021. So you've gotten all 6 of them right so far. Now, 2021 is, well, I'll just let you go.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So I know, was Harry Bader injured to start that year? He may have been, but I'm going to say Harrison Bader in center.
No, he was injured.
Damn. So is Dylan Carlson in center.
Correct.
Tyler O'Neill in left.
Correct.
And who was in right field in 2021? Oh my God. What players have the Cardinals had on their team? Wasn't Lars. He wasn't around yet. It obviously wasn't Jordan Walker. It wasn't Alec Burleson. It was not Tommy Edman, I don't think. Juan Yepez had a pretty good spring training, right? Juan Yepez. I'll say Juan Yepez.
No, this was like the one on the list that no one is ever going to get. Justin Williams was the
year of Justin Williams trying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn. I always wanted that to work out.
Yeah, same. Bader had a forearm injury going into that season.
Yeah. Damn.
All right. 2020.
Okay, I know Bader started that year because I remember him getting injured very early that year.
Yeah.
And that year sucked. Tyler O'Neill also started that year, left field.
Correct.
And I want to say Dylan Carlson again, but you said none of these are the same. They're all different, so it can't be Dylan Carlson.
Yeah, obviously a lot of repeat players, but there is not a single year where the same three were,
we're all starting at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that the Yepez? No, that's not the Yepez year. Tommy, were you out in right, or is there a player who I am not thinking about right now?
There is.
Rosa Reyna. No, he was called up late in a different year. Dolis Garcia was called up late in a different year. Jose Martinez. That wasn't. We had no. That was further back. And he didn't really play much right field. Oh man.
I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
One of the largest free agent signings in Cardinal history.
Oh my God, Dexter Fowler?
That's right. Dexter Fowler in right. So yeah, 2020 was O'Neill, Bader, Fowler.
What a horrible signing.
He was good in the first year of the deal.
Yeah.
All right. 2019.
2019. That feels like 1,000 years ago.
I know, it really does.
I'm going to say Dylan Carlson started in center field that year.
No.
Tyler O'Neill in left.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So I thought this might get this way. So I'm going to run through it for you. You did pretty well though.
Yeah.
Now we're entering into a few layers that that we all know, but it's easy to forget. So 2019 was Marcell Ozuna.
Oh yeah.
Harrison Bader.
Yep.
And Dexter Fowler.
Okay. I couldn't remember how many years Harrison Bader and Dexter Fowler crossed over.
Yeah. 2019 was the first. Bader.
So 18 would have been the first year Fowler came in.
Correct.
Okay. And he was center fielder. Bader was not. Carlson was not.
No.
Yet.
Fowler was not center fielder on opening day in 2018.
He wasn't. Wasn't that his first year? Or was 17 his first year?
He was 17. Sorry, 17 was his first year as the center fielder. Okay. Yeah, that was his first year on the team.
Impossible. I don't know.
Yeah. So we all know the slap heard around the world, but I think you and I think of a different slap when we hear about a slap. And yeah, so 2018 was Ozuna, Pham, and Fowler.
Right.
And then I'll just tell you 2017 was Grichuk, Fowler, and Piscotty.
Wow, that feels like a billion years ago. That is
Lamborghini in the garage, baby. Randall Grichuk.
Yeah.
Drafted before Mike Trout. It was like everybody always said those things about Randall Grichuk. Lamborghini in the garage and drafted before Mike Trout.
Grichuk, he stuck for a good amount, though. Give him credit.
He did. Oh, well, yeah, he was pretty good with Toronto, too. Yeah. What I always love about the Randall Grichuk was drafted before Mike Trout statement is that there was 2 picks by the Angels.
Right.
They took Randall Grichuk and then they took Mike Trout. So it's like they might have taken Trout just to be able to give him a slightly lower slot bonus or something. Yeah. Like it's not like necessarily someone evaluated Grichuk as being better than Trout. It was the same team. Who knows why they took the 2 picks in that order. But
right.
Anyway,
it was, if anything, it was just kind of rude to do to Randall Grichuk. Like not really fair. But it should also be noted, like 25 other teams passed up on Trout before the Angels. So whatever that's worth.
Yep. So, all right. So I knew that would be difficult. But I kind of like, I saw the list and I tried to do it myself before I really like digested the list. And I made it back to around 2021, 2020-ish before like just everything went into the mind hole. And I forget I know all the names, but you forget everything about the alignment and whatnot.
And it's funny too, because you'd think like if the Cardinals system has done anything well over the past handful of years, it's developed major league outfielders, and it's just been this revolving door of crap.
Yeah, well, look, every year
they're all over the league.
Yeah, that's true.
All of those guys are still in baseball and productive.
Yeah,
except for Dexter Fowler.
Yeah, not Fowler. Piscotty just recently retired, didn't he?
Yeah, I forgot about him.
And Justin Williams, whatever he's up to.
Yeah.
But has Bader signed?
Bader is with the Reds.
That's right. Yeah.
Annoyingly.
Ozuna actually had a pretty big year with the Braves last year.
He really did.
Yeah.
It is annoying to see him do well.
Every time that clip of him scaling the wall, turning around, and the ball dropping like 20 feet in front of him and him falling off the wall. I watch it every time.
Horrible. What that whole trade, that whole
peak
so bizarre.
Moment. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that trade has been just hammered into the ground at this point, and like I will forever contend that in the moment, everyone was incredibly excited about the trade, and it made a ton of sense. And but boy, howdy, did that one age poorly.
I mean, he was a 27-year-old all-star, Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, coming off a great year.
Yeah, he just hit almost 40 bombs.
We all thought he could maybe play center field still, and then he came over and he was just none of that.
He just had a 6 WAR season. Or nearly 6 WAR, 5.7. So
yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, big disappoint.
Yeah, that's what I would call good process, bad results. So
what can you do?
We liked it at the time. All right, well, that'll do it for this episode. Thanks everybody. We are almost there. So close. We'll be back next week with another episode. And check out our Patreon, patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Give us a call, 848-48-BIRDS. Text us too, either or. And we'll be back next week as always. And until then, go Cardinals.
Happy Feb.
Wow.
Everybody bird now.
Bird, 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 bird. Everybody bird now.
Squawk.
Nice.
Squawk, 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 squawk.
Okay.